And breaking tonight, the first vice presidential pick for 2016 has been called. Today, Senator Ted Cruz announced that he will now share his ticket with the former GOP candidate Carly Fiorina. Cruz made the big reveal this afternoon to cheers and applause from his Indianapolis supporters, but it was Carly Fiorina who stole the show, rounding out the event with a widely praised acceptance speech. Her message? Watch.
This is the fight of our time. And I believe Ted Cruz is the man to lead that fight. And I am prepared to stand by his side and give this everything I have to restore the soul of our party, to defeat Donald Trump, to defeat Hillary Clinton, and to take our country back.
Joining me now, Republican vice presidential candidate and the first vice presidential pick of 2016, Carly Fiorina. Carly, great to see you again. So
Thanks for being with me.
You know this is odd because Cruz doesn't yet have the nomination, and as you pointed out earlier, this whole election has been odd. But what do you say to those like Trump who say it was a desperation play by Senator Cruz?
Well, of course Donald Trump would say that. Donald Trump has been trying to say that Ted Cruz should get out of the race for a very long time. The only thing is Donald Trump hasn't won this nomination yet, despite so many people in the media just wishing it would all be over and he would be our nominee. But as I said in my speech, I do think this is about the soul of our party and the future of our nation. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are virtually indistinguishable in their positions. They are virtually indistinguishable in the fact that they have always been insiders to this corrupt system of crony capitalism and selling access and influence. And he cannot be our nominee. And if he were to be our nominee, Hillary Clinton would be our president. And that is a future that I'm not prepared to lay by and allow to have happen.
You know that the polls show, including last night, that some 70% of voters in these states say the one who goes into that convention with the most votes and the most delegates should be the nominee, even if he doesn't have a majority. What are they missing?
Well, first of all, I would say that a majority of Republican voters don't want Donald Trump to be their nominee. And 1,237 delegates represents the majority of the delegates in that convention. So if you can't win 1,237 delegates, then you don't have the majority of your party and you can't win. Of course, as for John Kasich, you can't lose 49 out of 50 times and win. But Ted Cruz has beaten Donald Trump many times. Donald Trump had a good night last night. Absolutely. He had a good night the week before. Absolutely. But this isn't over until someone reaches 1,237. And Donald Trump hasn't. And no, close doesn't count. And I believe Ted Cruz will be our nominee.
How can he be the nominee when the party is not coalescing behind him either? You know, you look at the numbers here in the Northeast primaries last night, and he failed to break 25% in these states. So his critics say even if they don't love Trump, Cruz isn't getting the party either.
Well, you know, actually, the party is unifying behind Cruz. If you look at the endorsements that he has received, I think there will be more endorsements coming. I mean, if you have the endorsements of everyone from Mike Lee and Scott Walker to Jeb Bush and Lindsey Graham, that's a pretty broad spectrum of the Republican Party. What is also true is the majority of Republican voters don't want Donald Trump as their nominee. And the thing is, Donald Trump tends to win in open primaries, but he tends to lose in closed primaries. And I thought it was Republicans' job to elect our nominee. I think the point of today's announcement is to make crystal clear what the choice is. On the one hand, you have Cruz and Fiorina, two proven conservatives, two proven fighters who actually know what this fight is about: our jobs, our prosperity, the possibilities and potential of our nation, our liberties and our security. And on the other hand, you have Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, who are two sides of the same coin, who are the ultimate insiders, who have played this game all their lives. And I think what Hoosier values mean is that people understand that someone's character is revealed in the pattern of their life, not in what they tend to say behind a podium when they're looking for a job. Hillary Clinton says whatever she has to say to get elected, so does Donald Trump. The pattern of his life reveals who he actually is.
What do you make of, he's in some hot water in some circles today for suggesting that Hillary Clinton would be at 5% in the polls if she were a man. you know, you were famously on the receiving end of a comment Donald Trump made.
As were you.
That both of which got him in some trouble, you could make the argument, in the polls or with some voters. So what do you make of that comment today, or last night, that he made about Hillary?
Well, you know, I think that Donald Trump, honestly, has trouble with strong people who stand up to him, whether they are men or women. And I mentioned that someone's character is revealed in the pattern of their life. So I, for example, think that when we had a terrorist attack in Brussels and Donald Trump immediately pivoted to attacking Heidi Cruz, that reveals his character, and he cannot be our nominee.
Now, the Drudge Report tonight is raising questions about you that I want to ask you about. They point out that in June of last year, a Ted Cruz-affiliated super PAC gave your super PAC $500,000 at a time where you were at 2% of the polls. Do you know why that happened? They're suggesting something strange was going on there.
Well, you know, the last time I looked, what super PACs do, they're not coordinating with candidates by law, and most super PACs give to a variety of like-minded candidates. I think there's been no doubt to anyone who's been watching this race for a long time that Ted Cruz and I are like-minded. We agree on virtually every position. We are both conservatives. We are both fighters who have challenged the system. So I don't find it particularly unusual, but I don't know the particulars of it.
I'll ask you the last thing. Of course, you ripped on Ted Cruz in the primary season. As every vice president is like, I hate to make too big a deal, because it always happens that the candidates rip each other to shreds, and then it's like, welcome to the ticket. But do you want to take any of that back, that he's too divisive to be president, that maybe it was a legitimate question about his Canadian citizenship? I'll give you the last word on it.
Well, first of all, I think it's an exaggeration to say I ripped him to shreds. Secondly, you're right. In the heat of a presidential campaign, it's like in the heat of a basketball game, you know, you make some fouls. But here's what I would say. I have been with Ted Cruz for the last 7 weeks. I've come to know him well. And what I've come to know is a man who is what and who he says he is. He actually believes what he says. He has practiced what he says. He has convictions and principles and values that have been consistent throughout his life. That is not true of Donald Trump, and it is not true of Hillary Clinton. And what I see, based on the people who get on that bus with us, is a guy who unifies people. He also happens to be a fair amount of fun. So what I am proud to say tonight is that I'm proud to stand with him in a fight, which I think is all about, actually, the nation, and not about Cruz or Fiorina or Trump or Hillary Clinton, for that matter. It's about what works. And what we know doesn't work is crony capitalism, a corrupt system, and the wealthy, the powerful, and the well-connected who use that system to get ahead. And that defines Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton.
Carly Fiorina, great to see you again.
Thanks, Megan.
All the best.